Alright fellas, we just saw the highly anticipated return of Inoue, and it went how pretty much everyone predicted. With Goodman pulling out and Kim stepping in, we weren't expecting fireworks, but Inoue certainly did deliver. This promotion has been fascinating, so I want to get down to the bottom of it. How do we end up in this situation? How was the fight itself? And of course, what is next for Inoue? What can we see from the pound for pound great over the course of 2025? But before we dive in, I've got some exciting news to share. For the first time in Cloister history, we'll be going live on this channel next week for Benavidez vs Morel. We'll be reacting to the fight in real time and breaking down everything boxing. Make sure to tune in on February the 1st at 7:45 PM Eastern Standard Time. Have the fight up on one screen and the stream up on the other. It's the ultimate watch party. You don't want to miss it. But now back to Inoue. This fight's promotion has been a bit of a disaster. Of course, it was originally meant to be Inoue vs Sam Goodman last month. And if you've watched this channel in the past, you're probably quite aware, even though I'm an Aussie, of my lack of love for Sam Goodman, which basically stems from the way his whole camp has acted since this fight became a possibility. To remind you quickly of what happened, Goodman wriggled his way into a mandatory position, defeating no one incredible. He rocked up to the Tokyo Dome match for Inoue against Neri, went up to Inoue in the ring after the fight and demanded him to fight him next or vacate the belts. So of course this fight was next, right? Nope. Goodman then ducked it for a warm-up fight against a bloke who had never fought outside of Thailand, and still didn't put up a good performance against him. But finally after this he signed for the Inoue fight, and it was set to be in Tokyo in late December. All looked promising until the last spar, where he cut himself. Now, I don't think they would do this on purpose, but really, the last spar, it just doesn't look great. But they didn't get out of it so quick. The bout was reorganised and was meant to give enough time for the cut to heal. But somehow they reopened the cut even worse and pulled out of the fight completely. Since pulling out, it's been said that Goodman will need at least 6 months off and plastic surgery to heal the cut properly. But somehow I'm pretty sure they've retained their mandatory position, which is pretty wild to me. If they truly wanted the smoke, they shouldn't have ducked it in the first place for a warm-up fight. There was zero reason for that warm-up. They should have had the fight in September. So that left Inoue without an opponent. Now Inoue typically only fights the best, yet on a few days' notice that's kind of hard to find. And also with that last fight, the Doheny fight, he basically had to take that as a stay busy because Sam Goodman was too busy with his warm-up. Because of this quick turnaround, it's hard to find anybody exceptional with the week and a half they had. Yet it's a credit to them that they managed to find somebody and keep the card alive. That replacement being Ye Joon Kim, a 32-year-old South Korean boxer. Not fantastic on paper, nowhere near world class, he was just an easy switch. That's the main reason they chose him. He has no standout opponents, and the only thing which was of note about him was that he apparently went by the fighting nickname of Packyweather, which could be one of the worst of all time. Like, I reckon whoever gave him that nickname did it on purpose just to make him seem incredibly lame. But replacement found, card was saved, fight week was as normal as ever, nothing really to talk about there, except for Inoue looking a little bit weight drained. But now the fight. The match itself went about as well as expected. Inoue seemed controlled throughout and had the fight at his own pace. Obviously, the Kim camp did try to have some sort of a game plan, with him switching from orthodox to southpaw to try trouble Inoue, which is something which has given him a bit of trouble in the past. But for the most part, Inoue was outlanding and outthrowing his opponent, and it all eventuated in that 4th round KO, which happened just after Kim asked for Inoue to bring more, and then came the big shot which put him to the canvas and he was unable to make the count. Now of course the question turns to what's next. For Inoue, he has so many options. With his agreement with Riyadh Season, he's set to go on a bit of a tour. It's been rumoured for the last 6 months or so that we'll see him back in the States, which most likely will happen. And with the Riyadh agreement, we're probably going to see him in a card somewhere in Saudi. In terms of the United States fight, I'm not one who criticises Inoue for never really leaving Japan, because simply he has. He's fought in the States multiple times and has even fought in Scotland. He's got around a little bit. Most of the criticism stems from that American ideal of, oh, you must prove yourself in America. But we don't hold American fighters to the same standards if they don't fight overseas, and without their own home court advantage. No, only fighters from countries which aren't America get that sort of criticism. Like, we don't hear anyone complain that Crawford has never fought outside the States. And he just doesn't need to crack the American market. He's a national hero in Japan. Why would he trade stadiums and big paydays for Thursday night small venue top rank cards? Who in their right mind would? Yet obviously he wants to silence a few people and go back to the States once again. While also Bob Arum as his promoter would have a bit of push and he wants him to fight in Las Vegas. Now Inoue's made it clear that he plans to fight 3 more times in 2025, and I firmly believe he'll remain at super bantamweight for the duration of the year. As for potential opponents, I bet on his next 3 fights being against Sam Goodman, Akhmadaliev and Alan Picasso. Each matchup presents its own unique storylines and challenges, and they all seem like logical steps for Inoue to take before considering a move up in weight. Starting with Sam Goodman, it seems inevitable that this fight will happen at some point. Goodman is still the mandatory challenger for one of Inoue's belts, and while Inoue's team has expressed reluctance to deal with Goodman's camp again, mandatories are hard to ignore. If Inoue was forced to vacate a title to avoid the fight, it's likely he would be compelled to win it back down the line to maintain his legacy. While the Goodman fight might not be the most exciting on paper, it's one that could realistically happen given the politics of boxing. Next, there's Akhmadaliev, who I think is the most likely opponent for one of the Saudi megacards. Eddie Hearn, Akhmadaliev's promoter, has a strong relationship with the Saudi boxing scene, and the Saudis will undoubtedly push for these higher profile matchups to justify the massive investments they're making. Akhmadaliev, a former unified champ and a top tier fighter at super bantamweight, fits this bill perfectly. The fight would deliver on quality and intrigue, making it a standout event for Inoue's Saudi debut. Finally, there's Alan Picasso, a rising Mexican talent who has largely flown under the radar but is quietly building a strong resume. A matchup with Picasso would make sense for a major US card, potentially in Las Vegas, as it would draw out the passionate Mexican fanbase. And just for a fun fact, he's a boxer who also studies neuroscience. Genuinely a really smart dude who loves punching on. That's pretty cool. Of course, there's always the possibility of surprises in boxing, but these 3 matchups seem the most probable for Inoue's 2025 campaign. Each fight would offer something different, whether it's Goodman's mandatory status, Akhmadaliev's proven quality, or Picasso's fresh appeal. Any of these would make for compelling matchups, and I'd be happy to see any of them. That said, I'd be pretty shocked if Inoue decides to move up in weight this year. While it's inevitable that he'll eventually rise to featherweight, I think he'll stay put for now and continue to solidify his dominance at super bantamweight. The Saudis, however, may already be looking ahead, with a potential Nick Ball fight on the horizon for 2026. But for now though, Inoue's focus will most likely remain on cementing his legacy at 122 pounds. Now let me know what you thought. What you think of the fight and what do you think is next for Inoue? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoy, please consider liking and subscribing, it does a ton for the channel. But thanks for watching fellas, and I'll catch you in the next one.